Hello, everyone. This is the Cord Quizzical Purpose Sprint Review for sprint number 5. Um, give an overview. So this was a 2-week sprint. It was pretty short. We had one holiday, which was yesterday. I think we might have scheduled this out so that we had more points than we could easily handle in a 2-week sprint. We only got 55 story points, and we left about 70 to do. We have a lot in progress still. I think there's a lot of people in, at least for me, there was a lot of things that were in progress that didn't quite get done this sprint. Um, but on the upside, we didn't add a whole lot during the sprint. So I think we did a pretty good job of planning to begin with. We just overestimated how much we could handle. No one left retrospective comments. So I'm going to jump straight into Jira. So let's see. I think these are Gopi's items. Gopi, can you speak to these?
All right. Investigate the current VTN architecture. I had absolutely no time to do any of that. I'm hoping that in the upcoming sprint, the final sprint, I'll get to do something just so we have more information as we go into the next release for the release planning. So I'll focus on 2980 in the upcoming release. Uh, so the second one, 2986, error in Volta deployment. I don't have a perfect solution, but I reduced the number of commands that are necessary to run from 3 to 2, and removed the need to delete the first Volta Helm chart. So I think it's reasonable progress. I don't really want to spend too much time on this because the issue is clearly on the etcd operator side. If I do have, and it needs a deeper fix, if I do have some cycles for before the release, I will try and create. I know what to do. I need to change the Helm chart, so I will try and create a patch and submit it to the guy who's maintaining it for review, but I don't think it's my top priority. Volta Helm delete takes a long time. I did not have time to get to this, but I will do that for the upcoming sprint. And then 3062 investigate why Ponsim was not working in Minikube. So I did get identify what the issue was. There was a specific issue with Minikube running a third-party CNI. So we were having issues. So we got Jeffrey from Netsia to use KubeSpray with a single instance of a VM running on his machine locally, and we got the Ponsim Linux bridge working. That's it for this this epic.
Thanks, Gopi.
No problem.
Moving on. Deployments and build automation. I think these are Luca's items.
Yeah. So, well, the one really done is the third one, automatically build Volta drivers. That's really complete this time. Deploy Volta and the OLT software. I've closed them for now because there are many pending items and are not really story that I can bring on. I can move forward on right now. So I close them for now. It's fine.
Are we dependent on the partner doing things, or are we dependent on other internal software development things for those?
No, we are depending on partners doing things.
Okay. Yeah, just mark them as just take them out of scope, and that'll be fine. Thank you, Luca. Nothing in dynamic loading and provisioning or eCord. Expanding the QA coverage. Sujitra or Kailash?
Yeah. Yes, I'm here. Um,
Yeah, sure. I can go here. Talk about the items that are completed here. I finished up the script to validate a Kubernetes deployment, so it'll go in and check and verify that the services are running once based on the Helm chart. So the expected services are running and the expected containers are pooled. So that script's ready to go and ready to test once we start testing on the physical pods. I've been doing this test on the Minikube, on just a virtual environment. And then, let's see here.
I can go over the next items.
Go ahead.
Kailash, do you have any others? Then you can go over others.
Yeah. I also basically finished up migrating any of the jobs that haven't gotten migrated from the old Jenkins server and disabled all the jobs that are migrated. So at some point this week, maybe I can sit down with Luca and probably shut down that old Jenkins if there's nothing else required there. I'll sync up with Luca for that. And then also updated the pipeline script that's running the verify API test. Instead of deploying the old make build RCord profile, it's now going to deploy RCord light Helm chart and verifying the API test there. So yeah, those were the items.
So the other tasks on this list, there were some MCORD jobs that we had to migrate for ping. So that has been taken care of. And also there were some changes for the new models for the ONU devices. So that test cases have been created, and even the end-to-end service chain model for testing that has been completed. And also there were some other disabling of the old Jenkins jobs. So I went through the list and then I disabled most of the Jenkins jobs, and then we cleaned up and also synced up with Zach on few other items. And hopefully we can make sure that in another 2 weeks we can shut down the old Jenkins server. And there are other 2 scripts that are still in progress, and hopefully when we have new VMs available for these tests, so in the next sprint, we will be able to run the new profile test, and also by launching through VMs on the pods. So mostly we'll be using for the KubeSpray plots, and then adding the VMs, connecting to those pods and running the tests of those servers. So that is still in progress, and we might be able to finish in the next sprint. So that is all from QA side.
Okay, thanks, Suchitra. Thanks, Kailash. Moving on, fabric features, we didn't have any items. MCORD, Andy?
So, building on the OpenStack Helm work, I've been trying to get an MCORD quick start procedure going for bootstrapping MCORD in 6.0 on a single node, sort of like cord in a box. That is mostly done. The patch is done. It's just waiting reviews and merging. The other thing I've been working on is documenting MCORD deployment. That's mostly documenting OpenStack Helm deployment, because after you get that done, it's easy to bring up the MCORD profile. It's just one Helm command. That's in progress. I have a documentation patch looking for feedback. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Is Ping on? I guess we don't have Ping.
So I can speak to Cord 2625, port services to 6.0. I think there's 2 pieces of that. Maybe there's some modeling changes that need to be done. I don't know the status of those, but there's also Helm charts that need to be written. The Helm charts are all done for all of the MCORD services. So that piece is done, and it's just a matter of, I would think, finishing off the modeling changes.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Moving on, maintenance, JJGB job migrations. I think this is this item is it's a bunch of subtasks. So I think the Cord 3086 migrate cord in a box builds to JGB. I think that was assigned to Andy, but I think we still need to do that. That's basically.
Yeah, I haven't made any progress on that.
Okay, that's fine, and I can help with that. The other one, 3087 migrate release build multi-branch pipeline job to JGB. I started on this. This is the release build script that applies tags to Gerrit. So I have it moved into the CI management repo, but I have to tweak it to make it work with the new Jenkins. And also, as it deals with tagging and labeling, when we get to the versioning, we probably should have a versioning discussion before we release 6.0 of how we want to version and apply those versions to repositories.
Yeah, this seems like a really good time to rethink this whole release build process, because that thing is just a mess to try to figure out what it does and maintain.
So it would be also really nice to have something ready so that in 7.0 we can go and upgrade versions of individual components, and if we do it before 6.0 is released, maybe we'll have a good upgrade path, which would be a nice story to have for 7.0.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one, 3090, remove legacy FileBeat logging from synchronizers. I have that in progress. It's basically removing one line from a lot of Docker files, so it's a lot of churn, but it's not a whole lot of work. That is probably going to get done next sprint. Matteo?
So fix end-to-end test on CoordinaBox was ported from last sprint because I made some modeling changes and I needed to upgrade the Tosca. That has been done, but I don't know what the current status of the end-to-end test, because early last week there were some issues in spinning up CoordinaBox, so I've not followed it more after that. Chameleon fails to connect to core and need to be restarted is a bug that we are seeing only on the physical pod here at ONF. I tried to investigate it a little bit and replicate in other environments. I failed it, so I was going to close it. But then Friday, someone else reported the same issue on Slack, so I'm going to investigate that again. So it's something that it can be worked around, because you just need to restart the container and then everything will start working correctly, but it's kind of annoying that the pod doesn't come up right at the first time. Tosca engine delete produce a misleading output was just a simple log message that was printing created models instead of deleted models. There was a small issue in the GUI for the Kubernetes data endpoint that wasn't pluralized in the same way as Chameleon and Xprot were doing. 2940, I'm upgrading the vRouter installation docs for SEBA. I'm working on that now. For now, we are supporting only static routes, so it should be pretty easy to complete that documentation. Then there were 3042, 3043. These are some validation issues in the RCord subscriber and the OLT service. I still have to work on that. I hope to do that today, but I'm not entirely sure because the day is packed with meetings. If not today, I'll work on that next sprint.
Okay, thank you, Matteo. Andy?
Let me see. I made it. This was a bug fix. I made a change to the OpenStack synchronizer to download images, VNF images by URL, and there was an issue that they weren't actually getting loaded into Glance, and so I fixed that bug.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Scott?
So this one was a very minor issue. It was one of the convenience wrapper tests was not working when we moved to the new Jenkins. I think that was just the order they were executed was slightly different, and we had to add one line to one of the test cases to make sure it built the mock model accessor properly. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Moving on, RCord. Matteo?
So, sorry, should we close first the offline limited access install? Can't remember, I guess we discussed about this last time, but can we just close that epic?
I think some of the things still apply. Although I'm wondering, the only thing that's in here was 1814, which is Google DNS hard-coded and OpenStack synchronizer. I think I asked Scott about this, because this is when a VM is brought up. It was using a VM. It was using the 8.8.8 DNS server, and I'm thinking that if the OpenStack synchronizer is going to change, this isn't the right place to put it. Does that sound right?
Because changing the DNS is not really related to the offline install, right? Well, limited access. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Forget about it.
I guess it's if Scott's going to change that when he redoes the OpenStack synchronizer, then it's fine. We can close that.
Yeah, currently that's sort of a separate issue because the changes I'm making to the OpenStack synchronizer have not yet touched the network models yet.
Okay.
So I haven't come up with the need to modify network, but this is something we could do separately, or we could look at it in the bigger context of reviewing the network models and seeing how they should change for the new OpenStack synchronizer. I think this would be a relatively small fix if we wanted to do it.
Okay, I'm going to close this as Lucas suggested, because it's basically done, and we're going to do it in a different way as Scott suggested. Okay, refactor, build, deploy. We don't have anything in there. I think this is probably also, we can mark that as done, although we should probably review these items. I'll do that after the meeting. Unit test framework, we don't currently have anything. Oh, we skipped Arcord. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I got out of order. Thank you, Matteo.
So the first one, I worked on that with Jono. Now when Volta discover an ONU, it sends an event to access on the Kafka bus, and that will trigger the creation of a subscriber chain. We got it working together with 3057 on Friday afternoon. And I think that's a very good news because we finally have what we called for a long time the zero-touch subscriber activation. And that's it. The other two, so 3008 is another validation in the OLT service, and 3100 is something that we realized Friday that we may need to do because all the ONOS service we have behave in a slightly different way, so we want to unify them and document them and make it easier to the user to understand how to use them. But that's going to be, I think I added this one in the wrong sprint because coming up Friday there was no way I was going to work on that in this sprint.
Okay, thank you, Matteo. Moving on. Cord 3037. I think this is a set of tasks for that need to be done to the automation tools repo to make it feature complete for shippable, so it's shippable. Some of these I don't think we might get to, but we should probably review these and see if they get brought into Sprint 6. Some of them are in progress. The 3069, Matteo and I worked on. We got Image Builder moved over and the documentation moved over, and most of the jobs in Jenkins are using it in the new location. 3070 is in progress for me. That's creating network configuration playbooks based on some of the ones that were previously in platform install. And the other ones I don't think we've gotten to.
3071, I think is actually mostly done. So there is a script for installing OpenStack Helm on a single node that I think is adequate for testing. But I need to get together with QA to figure out how we use that to actually implement some tests.
Okay, and 3072 and 3073 are further down their profile level testing. that I'm not sure we have infrastructure set up for. So let's talk about those at the sprint planning tomorrow. Moving on, XOS, deploying XOS and ONOS using Helm charts. This first item is Gopi.
Yeah, so that was something that Andy created for me. This was the one that I spent most of the time on in this sprint. I started off by creating something that will work with the sidecar container. The technology was mutating webhooks, but after like spending a week or a week and a half, I found that a sidecar will not work. So I changed tactics and used the same webhook pattern to change the OVSDB container itself to use a slightly different command. I got that working. I tested it. It was working. A couple of subtasks that remain is for me to add documentation on how the webhook works. And I also want to I created a shell script to get this working in a simple way. But I think a better approach would be to create a Helm chart. So I'll do both the documentation and Helm chart as separate tasks in the next release, in the next sprint.
Okay, thanks, Gopi. Andy?
No problem.
3024 was creating a Helm chart for the MCord profile that included all the MCord synchronizers, Helm charts for each of those, and then also Tosca that gets loaded when the MCord profile is loaded. Related to that was the next one, Cord 3045, reorganizing the Tosca in Helm charts based on some feedback from other people who are working with the Helm charts, particularly Scott. We came up with a kind of a better way to organize the Tosca, make it clearer how it got included into the charts and make it easier to template that and customize it. And so I did that for not only the MCord chart, which I needed the most for MCord because it had the most Tosca, but also the other charts too, like RCord and the base OpenStack. And the third one, 3099, that was updating the apps that get loaded by the base OpenStack profile, because that's the thing that sets up VTN for OpenStack, updating those to use versions for ONOS 1.13. I marked that as done, but I guess those apps haven't been officially released yet, so we're using snapshot versions. That's working right now, but once they get released, we're going to need to update it again to use the release versions.
Okay, thanks, Andy. I have 3016, which is creating a Helm native HTTP repository for charts. This basically lets people do Helm repo add and provide a URL, which currently is charts.opencore.org. And you can, without doing a git checkout, start running some of our charts. And so that gets built automatically on new commits to the Helm charts repo. And thanks to Luca for helping me get that figured out and get the web server and other stuff set up.
Does it work now?
Yeah, it works. And I think Matteo added documentation for it to the guide. So we're in good shape there.
It's already in?
Yeah.
Are we going to use, well, maybe this is a question for later, but I wonder, we're going to use this as our primary installation method?
I think it's probably going to get used as people who want to try out or look at the XOS interface or deploy things really quickly. This is, for developers, obviously, they're probably going to do a code checkout. But if you're going to just run the Helm charts and without modification, this is simpler than trying to do a git clone.
Yeah, I like every command that we can take out of the process, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think if you want to deploy on a remote machine, this is definitely a good way to go. If you want to make changes to the charts, you need to have the repo. But most likely, even if you want to use custom images, you can use this upstream repository and use the values file to override those. So.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, great. And thanks, Matteo and Luca, for helping me with that. Moving on, we don't have any in the OBS CNI. Scott, Kubernetes Synchronizer.
Sure. So the first one was to write the unit test for the Kubernetes Synchronizer. Those are done. The next was unit test for simple example service. Also done. Then we had delete steps for the Kubernetes Synchronizer. Those are all done. Finally, we had this bug that took some time to resolve, which was occasionally sync steps fail to run. That turned out to be an issue with the Kubernetes Python library. That issue is currently open. They haven't fixed it yet. I did figure out a workaround. Zach, I've submitted the workaround to you over in Slack for you to take a look at. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm replacing one of the files in that library with the file that has a couple lines commented out in it. And that'll resolve that issue. That is it for these.
Okay, thanks, Scott. I'll look at that after the meeting is over. Moving on, deploying OpenStack, our new OpenStack synchronizer. This is you again, Scott.
Yeah. So this one is ongoing. So currently, I have it in the state where it can bring up instances, but I think they're lacking key pairs, so you can't actually log into them. I think we're maybe somewhere between half and a week from getting this finished. So it does have new sync steps for creating domains, creating principals which map to OpenStack users, creating slices, and then creating instances. It's reused the old sync steps for managing networks. In this synchronizer, we made the transition from using Ansible to using the native OpenStack library. And so far, that seems to be a good transition. I'm finding it somewhat easier to program as well as seemingly more reliable than going through Ansible and having to parse the Ansible output and such. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Nothing for software versioning. For documentation, it doesn't look like we got a whole lot done here. I think the first one's Gopi. Or no, the first one's Luca.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I guess this was an effort from everybody, right? We, as you know, on Friday, well, I guess, yeah, Thursday or Friday, we published the first version of the documentation online. It's available. It's not perfect, but we're all working to make it more complete. So that's about it. This specific part was related to the deployment chapters, but again, Matteo and many others wrote as well documents for it. So.
Okay, thanks, Luca. Go ahead, Matteo.
I think that there were at least good parts of the documentation that has been written, even if it was not associated to a specific Jira task. For example, I documented the zero-touch subscriber workflow as part of implementing the task, so I didn't create a new thing for it. But we have, I think, a decently complete guide on online now.
Yeah, I agree with this, and I think we need to. Yeah, this is probably going to be a big focus of the next sprint. So, Matteo, did you want to go over your other item?
Yeah, my other item was getting some volunteer or volunteer somebody to get them to go through the guide and try to install a pod or a development environment or something that they choose. I didn't have the time to do that also because the guide was in a good shape just Friday. So I'm going to postpone it for this week.
The TO, we can do it. TO QA can do it.
Yes, sounds good. I was already planning to grab a couple volunteers from QA.
Okay.
I wanted
So
also to
before
get
that, you
someone
wanted
that
to have
has zero experience with Cord, because that's most likely the end user we're going to have. So
Okay.
I was going to pick up, I don't know, Brian or Carmelo or Ray or someone that has never really worked on Cord.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
I could also try it. We don't have to track it, but I can try it. I can create a task for myself to go through the documentation.
Are you claiming that you never worked on Cord, Gopi?
No, I definitely did not work on the new system that you developed. I tried a few months ago. I tried using the old documentation. It totally sucked. Let me try with the new documentation.
Sounds good. I'll send out a mail by today to get the volunteer.
Sure.
Okay, that sounds good. Scott, you have 2 items?
Yeah, my 2 items have not been started yet. So one of them is to document the Kubernetes service. The other is to document the event step API. I expect to get to those this next sprint.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Issues without epics. Cord 1286 event bus. This is Scott again.
Mute? Or did we get dropped?
Scott, are you there?
Oh, sorry, I had myself muted. Yeah, so the first one was design and implement the event bus system. That was the integration of Kafka. And that also involved modifying the synchronizer framework so it has event steps and putting together a test for that using the simple example service. So I think we're now using this in 2 contexts. One is simple example service, and the other should be the ONU integration that Matteo has been working on. That's it for that item.
Okay, thanks, Scott. The next 2, the first one is the ACORD broker service. So this is something that's still in progress. I've been making progress on this, but we've had a lot of interruptions this sprint, and so it right now sets up a data model, but I have Helm charts and a bunch of other things for integration and bringing up other services that need to get finished before it actually does anything. So that's in progress. And the next item, 3039, Jenkins jobs for image builder, building container images on the new Jenkins job builder, Jenkins. I have the script written. I don't have the node to run it on, which is 3040, which I think is Luca's task. So once 3040 gets done, I can try out 3039. It's pretty much done, except for it just needs to know which executor to run on. And then let's see. I talked about 3040. And who is Kailash?
Yeah, that one's mine. That's updating the auto generation of the XLAPI test to auto generate based off of on a Helm chart deployment. So I updated the pipeline script to deploy awkward life profile, and basically doing the same thing as we were doing before. Instead, going through still looking at the XOS core models and generating the API test based off of that, but this one will run on Helm chart deployment. So yeah, that was done.
Okay, thanks, Kailash. Is there anything that wasn't listed that people, or any other comments?
So the next sprint starts tomorrow?
Correct. So the Quizzical Purpose Sprint 6 is the 30th through the 12th, and the release is supposed to be on the 15th. So we do have a little bit of a gap between there. Planning is tomorrow, same time.
Can we start moving? Can we start moving tasks to it?
Yeah, there is in Jira there is a sprint 6. So I'm going to close the current sprint probably around 5 o'clock today, and so start making your new tasks in Jira. This next sprint is the last sprint before the release, so we need to really work on making sure our documentation is good and anything that we absolutely need to get into the sprint makes it in there. I know QA did a bug scrub on last Thursday. We probably need to do that again, either this week or next week to make sure that we have all the tasks that need to get in, so we have a functional 6.0 release.
Are we in feature freeze right now? I assume that we are. I mean, that's previously what we've done. Is
historically we've done a feature freeze if there's something that's non-core, and I would almost say that some of the MCord stuff is non-core. If it's not RCord Lite directly related, I think that getting features in is probably okay. But that's almost a TST level discussion. If people have comments on that, I think that I'd welcome them. I don't want to have anything that will make the system less stable. But if it's improving something that currently isn't stable, then that seems okay to me.
I guess maybe we need to take an inventory of what we had planned for the release versus what's actually done right now and understand what that gap is. I know we have a big gap in documentation still, although that's improving.
How many of the 69 unaddressed points are we? If feature free simply meant no new stories go into Jira, how many of those 69 points are critical?
So let's see. These are all the things that are not done, and they're so some of these are just things related that are straight maintenance, like most of the things related to getting things going in the new Jenkins. A lot of these are in progress. So it
was 40 some in progress, and so maybe those get done really soon. But I was just wondering of that mix 69.
Right. I think we need to drill down on that and figure out which of these. So, for example, some of these, like the two that Luca has here, are probably going to get delayed and they're not really dependent on for the release. Some of them are just are straight documentation issues. Like a lot of this looks like either documentation or testing, which I think is suitable to put in the last one.
Which are things you should be doing. Those aren't new features.
Right. I think we have very few new features in here. If just a quick glance over this, it's almost all documentation and bug fixes at this point, and that's a pretty good place to be.
From the RCord SIBA standpoint, the only feature we need is a feature in the fabric, not to discover the host, because now we get the thing going too quickly. Is that correct, Bruno?
Yeah, but I seriously doubt we're going to have that in 1 week, much a week.
Yeah, so we need to decide if that's important to have in the release or not.
What's the feature?
For the workflow that we plan to have, when you come up, you need to create the subscriber chain so that the subscriber can reach the fabric and get an IP from the fabric, and optionally being validated from an external website, right? Now we are validating only the ONU that is using. But there is a feature in the fabric that allows to discover the host once it is connected and pipe the traffic through. Okay. So once the user is plugged in, it's going to the internet. That is great for demos, but maybe in a real use case, they want to have some more control. It can also be a feature, I think, for 6.1 release that can come out pretty soon after that. Especially if we can decouple the components and release in independent version of the components, the platform will remain the same
does that answer your question, Larry?
Yeah, that's, so the answer is pretty close to everything that's still to do is a legit post-feature freeze thing.
I think so. Yeah, that's my interpretation too. It's mainly documentation and testing.
Okay then. Are there any other comments? It went over it really quickly. So Sprint 6 planning is tomorrow, same time, so 9 a.m. We have 2 weeks, but we also have a little bit of wiggle room because there's a couple days. We end the sprint on a Tuesday and we don't actually release until Friday. There's also been sort of informal discussions that the week in between the two sprints, or the end of Sprint 6 and the beginning of 7.0 Sprint 1 will be used for planning. In terms of organization, if people think that's a good idea, then I think we should. I think we can arrange for having meetings then. But I think we should discuss that more as we get closer to that time. So I guess close your tickets. I'm closing the sprint at 5 o'clock, and there is a Sprint 6 open for new tickets. I think that's it. Thanks, everyone. Are there any other comments? Okay, I'm going to start the stop the recording. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers, guys.